Hello, all you headbanging heroes and heroines out there. My name is Alan, and it's that time again. Let's talk metal. Tonight, I've got a topic that I'm really excited to do. I think this will be a really fun one. It's one of my favorite topics, and it came up based on some recent conversations with other folks on YouTube in the heavy metal community. I'm not going to name any names because we're going to protect the guilty tonight. As folks have been discussing heavy metal in all its wonderful different varieties and forms and genres and subgenres and infragenres, the conversation sometimes turns to new wave of British heavy metal, one of my personal favorites. And some people like it, some people don't. One comment I get from people who aren't so into the genre that comes up sometimes is something along the lines of, well, I've tried listening to some of that and it just sounds too dated. Sounds a little too tired, doesn't have enough energy, sounds more like 70s hard rock stuff. And for some new wave of British heavy metal, that's a very accurate take. A lot of those bands were building off of things that bands such as Thin Lizzy and UFO and Deep Purple had done and progressing with that, but they still wear their influences on their sleeve. So you can definitely get that vibe from a lot of new wave of British heavy metal songs. Absolutely. And some folks enjoy those. Some folks don't. And I get why some folks would feel that they're not quite up to the power level and the aggression level if it's somebody who's more used to heavy metal sounds of the 1980s. I get that. It is worth noting, however, that there were a lot of new wave of British heavy metal bands who were cranking it up that extra little bit, that they were really going to kick it into high gear, turn it to 11, wind it up, and see how far it could go. And that is why I'm here tonight. I'm going to play clips from 8 absolute barn-burning ass kickers of new wave of British heavy metal to help convince some of you out there that some of the bands in this genre really did know how to turn it up loud and proud and could hang with the best of any of the bands that would come just a few years on down the road. Without further ado, tonight I wanted to do less talking and more playing. So let's get this show on the road. All right, that is the immortal Sweet Savage, and they're cranking it out that hard and heavy in 1981. That particular song is not on the single I showed. It is from a BBC recording session they did around, I think, October of that year. Absolutely full of aggression, high-powered stuff that could hang with a lot of the thrash and speed bands that would come a few years after Sweet Savage had done its thing. They didn't record a lot of material. They had 2 singles. They had some songs on compilations here and there, but really great, raw and aggressive band. First thing that anybody should check out if they're wanting some new wave of British heavy metal that has a little more power to it. Band is best known, of course, probably for launching the career of Vivian Campbell with the excellent guitar work on display there. All right, without further ado, let's move right along to track number 2.
You're driving me, it's crazy.
That is Jaguar with one of their great early singles, Axe Crazy, hyper speed metal that can hang with anything from Omen, Savage Grace, early Overkill, any of the classic 80s bands you know and love. Jaguar's two singles are absolute stone cold speed metal classic killers. Their first album is terrific. Their second album, they spent a lot more time doing their hair than they did writing songs. There's no nice way to say it. Let's just not talk about it and pretend that one didn't happen. Great catalog, even with that second album sort of falling by the wayside. Okay, if that one didn't get you banging your head fast enough, let's try again with track number 3. All right, that's a little known band called JJs Powerhouse, Running for the Line. By the time that single had come out, if I remember the story correctly, the band had already sort of fallen apart, and the main songwriter and guitar player had joined a band called White Heat, who also put out a pretty rare but also pretty good single called Soldier of Fortune. It doesn't have quite the same level of oomph, but it's in the ballpark. It's another good one to check out. Possible I've got a couple of details on that story wrong or backwards, but yeah, there's a connection between White Heat and JJ's Powerhouse there. Two obscure singles, but definitely worth tracking down if you get the chance. All right, let's keep moving right along from 1983 to 1984 on track number 4. Okay, that is Chateau with a track off their second album. The album's called Firepower. Though it sounds French, very much a new wave of British heavy metal band. They were one of the bands on the Ebony label. A lot of stuff on Ebony came out a little bit later, kind of mid-late new wave of British heavy metal. Some of it's a little bit samey sounding, but Chateau is one of the best bands on that label. All three of their albums are worth checking out if you get the chance. And fun little historical footnote from the band. On their first album, Steve Grimmett from Grim Reaper stepped in to handle the vocal duties for them because the band was without a vocalist at the time they needed to go in and record. All right. Let's crank it up just a little bit more with another absolute screamer of a track here for number 5. Yeah, when people say that new wave of British heavy metal bands didn't know how to play fast, the Tooney brothers from Bitcheson say, hold my beer. Excellent band. Those guys really know how to crank it up and churn them out sometimes. The band gets overlooked a bit because their first album, when it came out on the Heavy Metal Records label, was a little bit of a flop. The band somehow failed to capture a lot of the energy they had displayed on earlier compilation appearances and such. The track you just heard was from a BBC recording session from late 1981, Absolutely Smokes. The band did have some lineup stability issues also over the years, which didn't help matters any. They had recorded an earlier version of that song, which is also excellent. But when they got in there to the BBC studios, they absolutely let that thing eat and took no prisoners whatsoever. All right, but let's keep right on rolling along. If you need another little thing to bang your head to, here's one of the absolute classics of the genre for track number 6. All right, that is one of the big standards from early in the new wave of British heavy metal, the mighty Weapon, setting the stage alight in 1980. Those guitars kick in there at the beginning of the song like a red-hot chainsaw, and they never look back. That song just smokes from start to finish. All right, we only got 2 tracks left to go. Next one, don't have any physical item to show off for you, so while you're banging your head along to this one, see if you can pick out who the vocalist is. Track number 7 right now. All right, that is indeed a young Brian Ross before his time with Blitzkrieg and also before his career with the band Satan. He played, or sang rather, for a group called Avenger, and that's from their single Too Wild to Tame. Avenger did 2 albums, both pretty good, very strong stuff that hinted a lot at the direction heavy metal was going to go. So yeah, the Avengers stuff, not one of the better known new wave of British heavy metal bands, but definitely one that's worth checking out. All right, YouTube, we're at the end of the line tonight. So got one more number to play here from a band that I know and love. You've heard me talk about them before, so can't leave without playing one track from this band. That is personal favorite, Crucifixion, absolutely cranking out a nasty, dirty sounding version of The Fox. They played the song early on their first single from '79, and it has a sort of a slower sound to it, but still a very good version. By 1983, however, the band had gone through some lineup changes. They had kicked it up a notch. That version appeared on a compilation album, not on the EP I just showed off. But if you can't find the compilation, the band's work has been put out on a couple of anthologies, so you can check out all the kick-ass tunes by this excellent new wave of British heavy metal band pretty easily. All right, that's enough for tonight. You've heard 8 tunes, 20 minutes. You've got your homework. Go check some of these things out. And if you enjoyed this, leave a comment in the section down below. Let me know what you think. I am intending to do a couple more installments of these new wave of British heavy metal killers. There's a lot more than just 8 bands out there who were definitely showing others how to play real heavy metal 1980s style that does not sound the least bit like anything that was left over from the 1970s. So look for future installments. Give me some suggestions. Which would you like to hear? What bands deserve a mention and who should be on this list? Until next time, everybody, take care. And of course, always keep banging your head to new wave of British heavy metal.